separate. I'm sure that probably doesn't tie directly in to serving him the papers. But brother, it's not harassing him to try and serve him the legal documents. This is a legit tactic process servers use, by the way. The rubber ducks is? Let me look that up. I'm very unfamiliar with all of this, so let me see. No, like using disguises. Oh, that I know. I thought you were talking about the rubber ducks. No, I know about that. That's a very common thing. I thought you were talking about sending rubber ducks for some reason as like first contact.
Officer Tonga issued Adams a trespass warning at Mr. Johnson's request and instructed him not to return to Mr. Johnson's residence. At approximately the same time, Officer Richardson arrived in the area and located a dark-colored Hyundai vehicle. Richardson initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle for failing to stop before the stop line at a stop sign and failing to stop completely at that stop sign.
Does this guy then go on to say the officer was incorrect? Because we have the dash cam. He realizes this lie is immediately debunked when you look at the dash cam. They stopped at the stop sign. This is a provable lie. Surely he goes on to say that the officer was incorrect, right? Obviously, he's gonna mention that, no doubt.
As you can see, we didn't even do a rolling stop. We fully stopped at the stop sign. So this is an illegal traffic stop.
That's a clip from Ben's video that just shows in broad daylight, no smoke and mirrors, no baloney. They stopped at that stop sign. Just wanted to dump that in here as a little refresher because what the spokesperson here for the police department is stating is provably false. There is a video, this is from the officer's own dash cam. So either this guy hasn't seen the evidence and is deciding to do this anyway to be clown himself, or they are knowingly lying. I'm more inclined to believe the latter because this isn't the only lie he tells. He tells multiple lies that are provably wrong based on all of the publicly available evidence.
Richardson contacted the driver, who identified himself as Tyler Shaw. A rear passenger also identified himself as Benjamin Schneider. When Officer Tonga arrived at the...
Nope, nothing about it being incorrect about the not stopping at the stop sign. Nothing about that. You know your own evidence contradicts your statement, right? This is is this a crime? Are you allowed to just lie about the circumstances of this? I don't know. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a lawyer.
Contact him as part of the investigation.
There's got to be a way to turn this guy up. There's got to be. I can't even focus on what he's saying because I can hardly fucking hear it. I feel like I'm taking like a physical with the doctor right now to check my hearing. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable how soft-spoken this guy is.
To contact Mr. Johnson because, according to Schneider, their civil case could not proceed without an attempt at verbal reconciliation.
I mean, it's not just according to them, it's according to law, brother. Why are you making it sound like that's up for debate? It's literally part of the legal process. I don't know why he's trying to frame it that way.
During the interaction, Officer Fraughton indicated he believed Shaw's eyes appeared glossy and expressed concern regarding possible impairment.
You're not going to mention why they got, like, why this has happened now? Because someone put in a tip that they had heroin? Are we just glossing over that? Did I miss it because I can't fucking hear this guy at all? Sounds like he's talking to me from underwater. We're not going to address the fact that you have just pulled them over because someone gave you a tip that they have heroin, so now you're acting off of just like a fraudulent lie, and now you're saying, oh, his eyes looked glossy. We're not going to bring that up? Interesting, very interesting.
Officer Hawkins asked Shaw if he would be willing to participate in field sobriety testing to ensure he was safe to drive. Shaw agreed. Field sobriety tests were conducted and no signs of impairment were observed. During this same time, while Officer Hawkins was conducting his investigation, Officer Fraughton used his police service dog to conduct an open-air sniff around the vehicle. Fraughton's police service dog alerted to the presence of the odor of a controlled substance. Subsequently searched. No illegal substances were located inside of the vehicle or of her residence, taking photographs of the home. The female was described as wearing long, fake, curly hair. Shortly afterward, Joshua Johnson contacted police and reported he was going to shoot someone as a result of the ongoing harassment. Multiple officers immediately responded to the area. While en route, Officer Officer Sumbat with the American Fork Police Department.
That seems like a really interesting thing just to get through pretty quickly. He kind of spit that out as if it was nothing, but to me that was kind of eye-opening. So he called the police because once again they have shown up to try and figure out a way to serve him these legal papers that he's avoiding like Garfield on Mondays. And now he's told the police, they're here again and I'm going to shoot someone. Pardon? What? That's pretty alarming behavior, I'd say. From everything I've seen and from everything even the police have described, there's been nothing threatening to Josh or his family's safety or anything. They are just trying every possible option to get him to take these papers as part of the legal process that they are required to do. And now he's saying that he was going to shoot one of them for this continued attempt to make contact for getting served these papers? Is that not like not like something that's a big deal? I think it probably should be.
Mr. Johnson stated that the prior owner, Crystal Law, had
No, we already know this part.
Mr.
You're just going to tell them that lie.
Sent to the store to secure the franchise location and protect company assets. Mr. Johnson further explained
Not company assets,
that
by the way, since
Law
they didn't pay for it
agreed to a
and
consignment
apparently don't do consignment,
of an
so it's not
individual named
theirs.
Brian Mansell. But according to Johnson, Mansell had not been paid. Mr. Johnson stated that when he arrived at the Oregon franchise location, Mansell demanded payment from Johnson and his business partner. Johnson reported that corporate representatives advised him they would address the consignment issue directly. However, Johnson claimed that Mansell continued attempting to hold Johnson and his business partner personally responsible under the agreement. Mr. Johnson also
Pretty
reported
reasonable.
there were Lego sets believed to belong to Mansell that remained at the store. According to Johnson, they offered to return those items, but Mansell refused and continued demanding compensation. Mr. Johnson alleged that Mansell had hired Benjamin Snyder to harass, stalk, vandalize the store, threaten to murder the
Threatened to murder.
and forge signatures.
The forged signatures apparently ties into the rubber duck, so maybe that's true, but threatened to murder the manager of the store. What? Just like Josh believed that there was heroin in Ben's vehicle, which obviously wasn't true. Huh. What an interesting thought there. What an interesting theory. So they're saying now that they offered to return the Legos and Brian refused. That would be news to me. Because even when their fucking COO or CEO, whoever it was that went on stream to beclown himself publicly last night, even he was like, we're not giving them back. or whatever. So it seems like they really don't want to give them back. I don't know if that option was ever on the table. Or maybe it's like in part one, where Josh was like, oh yeah, you just have to give me an apology and I'll get them right back to you. So they go through all of that and then he never gives them back. He just keeps kicking the can down the road and still never gives them back.
Johnson then explained to Officer Sumbat several incidences from the previous days allegedly involving Snyder and or Snyder's affiliates. Officer Sumbat informed Mr. Johnson that Snyder stated he was present with a process server to serve legal paperwork.
Is that right? It's because the Legos they offered to return were valued between $2.5 to $5K, so it was a small fraction of what they stole. Is that it? So they did offer to give him back like 2 sets from the collection. Like, all right, here, scram. Here's 2 sets back. So that's what he's referring to?
Johnson claimed the paperwork was fraudulent. Officer Sumbat again contacted Snyder, who stated they needed to physically deliver copies of the paperwork to Mr. Johnson. Officer Sumbat's report states, Snyder told me he was following the government's instructions and that Johnson keeps calling the cops on him to avoid getting in trouble for his crimes. Snyder said this is the 3rd time Johnson has called the cops because he thinks that if he keeps calling the cops on him, he can get away with it, but we are showing him that he's not going to get away with these crimes. Snyder
Fair.
allowed
That
Officer
sounds good.
Sumbat to take the paperwork to Mr. Johnson, which Officer Sumbat did in an attempt to help Mr. Snyder. Officer Sumbat advised Mr. Johnson that the paperwork appeared to be related to a claim and a case that originated in Oregon. Mr. Johnson stated that he had already contacted the Oregon Law Enforcement Agency with jurisdiction, which was the Kaiser Police Department, and had been told that nothing had been filed. Mr. Johnson also stated he believed this
That's interesting, considering there's evidence that it had been filed that the officers even looked at too.
and declined to accept service.
Okay.
Mr. Bott contacted the Marion County Circuit Court in Oregon to verify the legitimacy of the paperwork. The court confirmed that the case was indeed legitimate, but that papers had already been served and no hearing date had yet been scheduled.
That would be big if true.
You have to
Doesn't
submit
seem
those
true
papers?
though.
Yeah. So this is what you're trying to serve them with?
Yes. That's required by the court that we have. I wish we could. So.
Okay. You okay if I give these papers to them?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, do they show this with no redactions?
Okay, we might need you to fill out some documents later then, as proof of service, if that's okay. But because whoever serves him has to fill out a proof of service and might have to fill out some court papers. But
Nope, still redacted. Cool. So we'll go ahead and take the off the full department's
What was that?
word on it.
He does not want the paper. So
he's not want the papers.
here's that back for you.
Okay.
He wanted you trespassed.
While officers were speaking with the involved parties, a sign was also located on the park strip across from Mr. Johnson's residence.
That's so interesting. If the actual order of events is he had already been served the papers appropriately and this was all for content, it surely would have been really easy to let us see that conversation and him prove that he had already gotten the service. But I guess we just have to trust the American Fork Police Department that they're being truthful. We know Josh is a real upstanding guy. We know he's no nonsense, straight as an arrow. So we should extend that same courtesy to the American Fork Police Department, which has already told 2 bold-faced lies in this statement already alone. Provable lies, by the way. I want to linger on that for just a minute. So the claim is that Josh declined it because he said that he had already been properly served these papers. So this was all just a content thing. Why does the officer just immediately take Josh at his word, and why can't we see that conversation if all of this is truly by the book? This doesn't debunk anything. This is still the exact same order of events that is presented in Ben's video. He declines the service. I decided to look into this, and from what I can tell, you can't even do that as just like a normal civilian. If an officer is serving you legal papers, and peppers probably, you can't just be like, I don't want it. Take it back. You still get served those papers. Like, you have to be. Like, if the officer is the one doing it, there isn't a way to just be like, I'm kind of full. My tummy, I couldn't have another bite. I shan't. Now, from what I can tell, you can physically refuse to touch them, but once the officer is there and confirms everything and is attempting to serve you these papers, it then constitutes the process moving forward. Why doesn't that count for Josh? Why is he allowed to just be like, oh no, we're already way past that, so take that and scram, and then the process stops there for him? Why is that allowed? Like, I don't get it. I don't see why that's allowed for Josh when it doesn't appear to be allowed for like ordinary people.
Officers had already given Snyder earlier warnings. Snyder responded that he believed he was following court procedure. An individual commits stalking if the individual intentionally or knowingly engages in a course of conduct directed at a specific individual. And
I bet my fart was more audible than this guy's entire speech so far.
would cause a reasonable person to fear for the individual's own safety or the safety of another, or to suffer other emotional distress. Utah law defines a course of conduct as 2 or more acts directed toward a specific individual, including, but not limited to, following, monitoring, observing, photographing, surveilling, or communicating to or about an individual. It also includes approaching or confronting an individual, appearing at an individual's residence, contacting an individual's neighbors.
No, I get it. Like, you can definitely make the argument that it would be like stalking or harassment adjacent, but if the orders of the legal system are to serve these papers and he constantly uses the police department as his own fucking hound dogs to prevent him from doing that, what else is he supposed to do? How else do you serve those papers? They're really fixated on that element as opposed to giving the solution of how he's supposed to lawfully serve these papers in the event that they are refusing the service. I'm genuinely, what else do? You get a process servicer, which is what he did, right? Wasn't that the legal processor? So, like, they did. So what's the other method? If you can't do email and you can't do phone, it has to be physical for whatever fucking reason, and they just keep saying, nuh-uh. What else, like, how else are you supposed to do it that doesn't somehow tiptoe on this line of what is stalking adjacent? Like, I get, like, the filming and stuff. Yeah, you could definitely make that as a stronger case, whatever. But the guy is still just refusing it. That still seems like you should be more on the side of the person trying to deliver this lawful order from the legal system to the guy who knowingly still hasn't paid out the small claims court loss that he owes. He is still dodging that, which is a crime. So I don't know, just what's the solution then? I'd love to hear the American Fork Police Department explain it. I'd love to know. The server does it on your behalf, which is what they tried. Even the officer in this, like in the video and even in their own body cam, the officer was going to be the server, but Josh said no. So he didn't serve it, and they redacted the entire conversation suspiciously. Or not suspicious, obviously, there's nothing fishy going on there. But, like, even a police officer who went to serve it didn't successfully serve it because Josh said no. So then what do? It still counts as served at that point? Not in the system, it doesn't. How would they know? How would they know if it counts as served if the guy said no? Because you have to submit it. And like Ben said, I think he's right, I have heard of this, the submitter, like the actual processor, the person that serves it, has to also fill it out to confirm that it has been served. So I don't think you can just be like, I was close enough, so it counts. But you could make the case that it's overboard because of, like, he kept showing up. But again, without a whole lot of options, how else are you even going to attempt to pursue justice in a case like this?
That Snyder had committed the offenses of stalking and targeted residential picketing under Utah law. Snyder was subsequently arrested and transported to the Utah County Jail.
That was his first arrest. That arrest happened right after they learned that the lawsuit and everything was legitimate. So the officer got that information, confirmed it through the official channels, and then they immediately went to arrest him, by the way.
And observed 4 individuals hanging a sign directly across from Johnson's residence. The sign appeared to be either the same sign or a replica of the sign that was referenced in case 26AF02033. Officer Richardson contacted the group and asked what they were doing. The group stated they were supporting a GoFundMe campaign for a dying man. One of the individuals, later identified as Sheldon Norcross, voluntarily showed Officer Richardson his phone to display the GoFundMe. While viewing the phone, Officer Richardson observed that Norcross was actively engaged in a FaceTime call. Officer Richardson asked Norcross who it was he was speaking with, and specifically asked whether it was Benjamin Snyder. Norcross confirmed Snyder was on the FaceTime call.
God, he's like their boogeyman over there in Utah.
The known facts and the elements of Utah's stalking statute, and taking into consideration the new actions from that day, Officer Richardson established probable cause to arrest Snyder for an additional count of stalking.
Jesus.
Specifically, Richardson believed Snyder was coordinating conduct through third parties that constituted a continued course of conduct under the statute we reviewed. Officer Richardson then decided to seize Norcross's phone, pending the approval of a search warrant, in order to preserve potential evidence and prevent the deletion or alteration of any data. According to Officer Richardson's reports, when Norcross was informed that the phone was going to be seized, Norcross immediately began manipulating the device.
Oh my God, he's actually going for it. He's alting. That manipulating the device, it's all on camera, by the way. He went to lock his phone. That's the manipulation they're talking about on the device, making it sound like he went in there with like a fucking magnet or something to start like tampering with it and erasing it, like he hacked into the mainframe. Because the officer fucking freaked out. He's like, "Don't do it," and he's like reaching for his gun or something. "Don't do it! You're destroying evidence!" Because he locked his phone. It's all on camera, by the way. Now it is officially, they are doubling down on that, digging their heels in, saying that he was manipulating the device, implying that he was trying to hide nefarious activity and shit.
Richardson wrote in his report. Norcross then immediately opened his phone and began manipulating it, which led myself and Lieutenant Adamson to believe he was attempting to destroy evidence on his device. At that point, Officer Richardson and Lieutenant Adamson forcibly removed the phone from Norcross's grasp after what Richardson describes in his report as a very brief altercation.
Altercation? You just took his phone and that was it. That was the end of it.
At this time, officers did not know where Snyder was located. While still on scene, Officer Richardson received information from an American Fork resident stating that several YouTubers had been renting an Airbnb property from this citizen. Officers
This is when they
responded
raid
to
it.
the Airbnb with the intent to arrest Snyder for an additional count of stalking.
So it really seems like the entire community over here, like the Mormon community here, is all over Josh's meat to like really ride or die for him. So now they're just snitching on them just having an Airbnb. That seems completely unprompted that one of the residents was like, "There's some YouTubers that bought this Airbnb. Go raid them with guns, please, ASAP." That's scary. That's some freaky shit.
Upon arrival, officers developed probable cause, including information gathered from video surveillance from the Airbnb, to believe that Snyder had entered the residence and had not yet exited. Officers then prepared a search warrant affidavit requesting authorization to enter the residence to locate and arrest Snyder. During contact with the Airbnb...
By the way, they don't do this for real stalkers. They would never do this to a real stalker. For an average normal citizen, if you have a stalker that is like a threat to your actual life, they would never go this far. You would be dead in the ground before they ever even thought of acting.
The owner reported overhearing conversations about possible stolen Legos. Specifically, officers wrote in the search warrant affidavit, the homeowner also disclosed that he could hear multiple individuals inside the residence speaking about possibly stolen Lego toys they had taken.
How reliable.
Officers added a request within the search warrant affidavit seeking authorization.
We heard some like crackhead say that he thought he heard them talking about Legos they stole.
Including Lego merchandise. 4th District Judge Roger W. Griffin.
By the way, this is exactly what Josh said he would do if he pursued legal action against him, if he tried to sue him. Josh said point blank, "You stole the Legos then, bitch. How about that? So you have two choices. You can shut the fuck up, or we can go this route." Ben didn't shut up, and now all of a sudden they've got a search warrant here about some stolen Legos that they got from an anonymous guy who was apparently just chit-chatting, thinking that he heard them talking about the stolen Legos they have.
Reviewed and approved the search warrant. Officers executed the warrant as a knock and announce warrant. What this means is that our officers take the time to knock on the door, to present themselves as officers, and to inform anyone inside that they have a search warrant. As they were doing this, individuals came to the door. During Snyder's detention, Lieutenant Adamson took hold of Snyder's right arm. Lieutenant Adamson later reported that he felt Snyder tense his arm, at which point Adamson moved Snyder's right arm behind his back to place him into custody. Mr. Snyder later addressed this incident in one of his YouTube videos. In the X-ray image displayed by Mr. Snyder in that video, a small L is visible in the upper right-hand corner of the X-ray. The L indicates the image is that of the left shoulder. The video shows Lieutenant Adamson handling Snyder's right arm during the arrest.
Oh, that's interesting.
Officers documented no complaints of arm or shoulder pain by Mr. Snyder report or booking process at the jail. All 5 individuals were transported to the American Fork Police Department. Due to limited interview room availability, the individuals...
That was just a stock image? In the video, is it just a stock image? I didn't look too hard at it. What the officer fails to address, though, is why he did that in the first place. The officer said that Ben was attempting to run, or gave him an indication that he was about to run, which is why he roughed him up there, why he grabbed him in the first place. I don't know why that slips through here with him not addressing that. Is the x-ray in the bin video just stock? That would make sense because it's not like they're going to give him an x-ray in the pin. So that would make sense if he just grabbed the stock image. Yeah, it's even disclosed that it is just a stock image in the video. Got it. So this is him trying to dunk on it for being misleading, while ignoring the fact that he shouldn't have been grabbing Ben's arm like that in the first place because he wasn't attempting to run. It is provably wrong in the body cam. He is not uncooperative or giving any indication he's about to flee. So it shouldn't have happened to begin with. Can't hear the audio? Hey, take that up with the American Fork Police Department. File a complaint. Have them fire their audio engineer, or have them hire one, because this shit is abominable. I've done all I can for it. That's on them.
Agreed to interviews with Detective Nicosia. The contents of those interviews are documented in the Associated Police reports, which will be made available through a link accompanying this video.
You can't because they took down their website.
Ultimately, Detective Nicosia
They moved it to the Bricks and Minifigs official site, I bet.
Appeared to have been acting at the
They're private
direction of
contractors now.
Mr. Snyder. These 3 individuals were ultimately released from the police department. Mr. Snyder was subsequently transported to the Utah County Jail, where he was booked for an additional charge of stalking. I understand that many people following this situation online have strong feelings regarding the underlying business dispute out of Oregon and allegations that individuals may have lost significant amounts of money. I recognize that people are frustrated, angry, and may feel that justice has not been served in relation to those allegations. Those concerns are understandable. I understand them, and I'm empathetic to them. And nothing in the actions taken by the American Fork Police Department should be interpreted as validating, supporting, or defending anyone involved in that separate civil
How?
dispute.
How can you possibly say that with a straight face and a soft voice? At no point throughout this entire thing has a single law enforcement official from your department been anything but confrontational to Ben and his team. Despite a literal court victory, they continue to treat him as though everything he's presenting is fabricated and false, and instead constantly at the beck and call of Josh. How can you possibly even say that, man? What a joke. And that's a good point. The female cop that was on the scene like the first time with the Brandon Best, when he went to have like the civil discussion there, as lawfully ordered to do, she immediately regurgitated what Brandon Best was saying, instantly taking his side and supporting his account of the events. Again, the body cam betrays what you're saying, bro.
Or other conduct within our jurisdiction. We remain committed to enforcing the law fairly, objectively, and transparently.
Then get Josh's ass to court, bro. The whole thing could have been solved if he would just take the papers. Your officer couldn't even give him the papers because he has more power than your department, I guess, where he can just say no. And he still hasn't paid out the settlement. What are you talking about, man? If that's what you want, then enforce the law fairly. Get Josh on the horn. Get his bitch ass in here. Do you even think they still have any of the sets? I'm sure they have some of the Legos. And they definitely have records of the ones that are sold. So they could easily do giving back the ones they still have, because I bet they still have it. I bet they stopped selling it after a certain point because it was so contentious. So they probably still have some of it. And they could easily just pay back what they've already offloaded. So they could. They just refuse to. And the behavior of the COO or whatever on the stream from last night or whenever it was, reprehensible. The guy he's actually a worm. He's genuinely a delusional worm. Because so far, there hasn't been a good defense. Bricks and Minifigs has not had any kind of real debunking. They have been provably wrong in their statements. Now the police have come forward with their account of things, and there are multiple lies that are just brazen. So there hasn't been any good defense yet. It is all on the side of Ben. And there's been ample opportunity for the American Fork Police Department, for Bricks and Minifigs to actually start debunking things and saying, no, this is what's wrong, this is what's manipulated, here's the facts to support us instead of Ben. But they haven't provided any of that. They have none of that. So I just don't see how there's even another angle they could play at. From what I saw, Lego, the actual company, is even investigating the situation now. I wouldn't put a lot of stock into that. I imagine Lego would be far more on the side of Bricks and Minifigs than they would Ben, because I believe companies view people like Ben as a disruptive actor that is more of a problem than a boon to their business. So I'm pretty confident Lego would side with Bricks and Minifigs. Why did Ben make the sign for content? How much of his actions are for content? So that's the thing I was saying, like the rubber ducks and stuff, that's not smart. The sign is a real thing though. Because Josh would never open the door for him, and also Ben can't go near it because he's been trespassed, he'd get arrested. The sign was an attempt to get him to go out and take the sign down so that way the legal processor could serve him the papers. But he never did that and instead just used the police. So I do think some of it was a blend of like solely for content, like the rubber ducks to fuck with him. But the sign one, that was like a real thing. And it was on a public space, so he was well within his rights to do so.
$15 a lot of these shows still came across looking pretty dull and cheap. And I personally didn't even hate them or anything. For the most part, a lot of it just felt fine. And pretty quickly, Disney had started cashing in with these annual Star Wars releases, which, also remember, this was a franchise previously infamous for taking a 16-year break while being at the top of the game. And that could only happen because Star Wars had its sole creator at the top. And now it'd be 2 years between mainline saga films instead of the traditional 3. And it was a blitz of Star Wars meant to keep a similar pace to what was going on with the MCU. But Star Wars, as we know, is not Marvel. Those films were built from the ground up with the expectation of frequent releases. I don't think it quite hits the same for what's supposed to be these mythical epics from a long time ago. And all that, of course, came to a head with Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. A film that seemed intent on pleasing no one. And even if you were someone who thought Star Wars lost its way as soon as Wicket showed up, there was something uniquely bad about Episode 9. Something so slapdash and careless that didn't seem to come from a place of genuine passion, but just corporate approved whatever. Here, damn. Here's Palpatine. Here's a prequel reference. Here's 1,000 Star Destroyers underground with Death Star beams. It felt like the first Star Wars movie that truly openly believed that this is just a dumb movie with space wizards, lol. When Jar Jar stepped in poopy or said P-U-said at a big Yopi fart, even as a kid who didn't find that funny, by the way, there was no doubt that this movie came from a genuine desire to tell this story. Misguided aspects, sure, but a genuine desire nevertheless. So with Rise of Skywalker being this muddled disaster was probably a good stopping point to say, okay, maybe we're done here. The best thing Star Wars could do was distance itself from all this and just take a break. But just shortly before Rise of Skywalker's release, we got
The Mandalorian.
Mandalorian was this breath of fresh air for audiences. New characters in an unexplored part of the timeline, on episodic, smaller stake adventures, unburdened by legacy characters, or needing to be an expert on everything that came before it. Pretty quickly in the following seasons, though, it became this rendezvous point for plot threads and characters from other Star Wars shows and backdoor pilots for multiple spin-offs, some of which never even came to fruition. Mandalorian, which started as this good entry point into Star Wars, was now positioning to be a Mandoverse, which was really a Rebels verse, which was also a Clone Wars verse. It also didn't help the show reached a pretty satisfying end for Grogu's story before scrambling to double back and then do it all in Boba's big fat book. And from there, we ended up getting an onslaught of different live-action Star Wars shows for audiences to keep up with, many of which averaged out to be pretty forgettable. And while the gap between what can be pulled off on a television production scale versus a film production has narrowed in the last 15 years, a lot of these shows still came across looking pretty dull and cheap. And I personally didn't even hate them or anything. For the most part, a lot of it just felt fine individually. But in this barrage, one after the other, year after year, they all start to feel like that fake Krabby Patty sludge. And let's be real, if there wasn't such a massive difference between television and movie production back in the day, I'm sure George would have loved to expand live-action Star Wars into TV day one. I mean, that's how we got fever dreams like Star Wars The Holiday Coke Party and Ewoks Big Fat Furry Adventure. And that was largely his focus post-Revenge of the Sith, with him financing the Clone Wars and working on his live-action Star Wars Underworld show. But even in the late 2000s, efforts like that were still largely unfeasible, but now that line has forever been blurred. In the 7 years since Rise of Skywalker, Mandalorian, Star Wars has not left. It's established itself firmly as a streaming property for the better half of a decade. It also doesn't help that movie theaters are in the most dire straits they've ever been in. A lot of people would rather just wait the 2 to 3 weeks it takes for something to hit streaming. And plus, let's not forget, the TV to movie pipeline has always been this major uphill battle. Even a property as massive and iconic as SpongeBob doesn't perform as well as you'd expect. Why should audiences shell out money and time to go see something they can get at home? Really, if we're taking properties bought by Disney being turned into a theatrical release, there's very little separating Mandarin Go-Gurt from Doug's first movie. Only now you're dropping a film based on a television show in an even worse landscape. Now more than ever, it's gonna take a lot of convincing to get butts in seats. You need audiences to truly feel the insane hype of Microplastic and Grommet. Oh yeah, we got all the merch, $20 3-injection figures, begging Star Wars fans to wash their ass with soap, and the new Mando meal from Burger King, which has got every Star Wars influencer talking.
We're here at Burger King today. This is Mill-Av Anakin coming back at you with another food review. Got the packaging with the Boba Fett. That is a burger. Yeah.